Hello, and welcome to Tangerine Chapter 2 this week. And we're on page 77, Monday, September the 11th. September the 11th being the day when the planes crashed, but it's not in this book. I was up for a long time last night listening to the rain. It was still raining when Mum dropped me off at the guardhouse. I stood next to Joey, but neither of us had much to say. Lake Windsor Middle School is a very uncomfortable place to be when it's raining. Hundreds of kids crowd into the walkways between classes. The kids with umbrellas smack them into each other. The kids without umbrellas panic because they're trapped in the cold, pounding rain, unable to move behind the kids with umbrellas. I was one of the kids with umbrellas, even though the coolest guys don't carry them. Of course, the coolest guys don't have to take off their glasses and dry them before they can see again either. It was still pouring during third period when a kid came into my math class in P19. He was soaking wet and holding one of those wooden office passes. The teacher, Mr. Ward, called me into the front and said, "You're wanted in Mr. Murrow's office right away." I let the kid with the pass share my umbrella as we crossed over the ocean of mud and ducked into the building. When we got to Mr. Murrow's office, I noticed Mrs. Gates and Coach Walensky standing with him next to the desk. Lined up on a long couch against the opposite wall were Joey, Adam, and other two guys from our group at the carnival. I went and sat with them. Mr. Murrow started speaking. He was angry. "I want you boys to tell me exactly what happened at the carnival on Saturday." He paused and then added, "You were all at the carnival on Saturday, were you not?" Nobody answered until Joey spoke up and said, "Yes, sir, we were there." Joey didn't say anything else, so Coach Walensky intervened. "We know that you were there, boys, because I gave you a ticket. That's how we all got to come into Mr. Murrow's office today. Now, maybe you don't know what this is all about, so I'll tell you. Mrs. Gates got a call on Saturday from the sheriff's department." Mr. Moreau picked up the story from here. His tone was reasonable now, more like Coach Walensky's. "The Tangerine County Sheriff's Department received a complaint from the owners of the carnival that one of their exhibits was vandalized by boys from a soccer team. They called Mrs. Gates and asked her to find out exactly what happened to that exhibit." He checked the name of a piece of paper. "The Wonders of the World exhibit." Joey was quick to respond. "Hey, we didn't do anything wrong. We were in that exhibit, yeah, but we didn't do anything to it." Everybody on the couch agreed, except me. I knew immediately what had happened and who had done it. I really didn't want to rat out those soccer guys, but I was the only one who had seen them going in. It had to be me. I raised my hand and limply said, "I think I know who did it." All three adults turned to me. Mr. Moreau said, "Okay, who did it?" "Well, when I came out of the exhibit, I saw a bunch of guys from Tangerine Middle going in. I think they were the soccer players." "Why do you think that?" Well, sir, they were carrying a soccer ball." The three adults looked at each other and then they smiled. The rest of us started to relax. Joey said, "Yeah, I saw those guys too on the way in and out of there. They were bad news, no question about it." Coach Walowski said to Joey, "Did you recognize any of them from our game last year?" Joey returned, "Oh, yeah, they were definitely from that team. I think they were all starters. I never saw them going into the freak show, so I didn't know who you were talking about at first. But yeah, definitely, they're the guys you're looking for." Mrs. Gates seemed relieved and happy. She said, "Thank you very much, boys. I guess we solved this mystery. I wish they was all so easy to solve." Mr. Moreau added, "I'm glad it was just a case of mistaken identity. I didn't think you guys would do anything like this. All right, why don't you go ahead and get back to class? And thank you too, Coach." Coach Walewski told him, "I know the coach at Tangerine Middle. Her name's Betty Bright. Call Betty and tell her what happened. She'll round those kids up." Mr. Moreau picked up the phone as we all piled out into the hall. Nobody said anything. When we got to the outside door, I asked Joey if he wanted to talk under my umbrella. Adam and the other two kids were too cool to have umbrellas, so they took off and ran through the rain towards the portables. I stopped still when we got outside the building, right at the entrance to the boardwalk. The whole thing was really bothering me, so I said to Joey, "Hey, we ratted those guys out, right?" Joey seemed puzzled. "Yeah, so what? They're never going to know who we are." "Oh, no? Who knows what Moreau's going to say to that Betty Bright? He might tell her our names." "No way. It's not like we're testifying in court or filling out affidavits. Our names aren't on anything." "Listen to yourself. You sound like a lawyer." "Oh, give me a break, Fisher. Do you want to take the rap for something that you didn't do?" "No." Joey paused for a moment and asked, "So how come you took off at the carnival?" "I don't know." I paused too. I finally said, That Adam kid, is he going out with Kerry Gardner? Is that the deal? Adam? Adam's a geek. So what does that mean? Is he going out with her or isn't he? Not that I know of. Why? Do you want to go out with her? Oh, no, why should I? Well, hey, she obviously likes geeks. Why shouldn't you? I stood there trying to think of a comeback when suddenly I heard a whooshing sound, like the sound you get when you open a vacuum sealed can of peanuts. Then the brown water that had puddled up over the field began to move. It began to run towards the black portables, like someone had pulled the plug on a giant bathtub. Next came a crack, crack, cracking sound. The boards began to come apart and the loose mud under the walkways began to slide towards the giant bathtub drain. One after the other, the doors of the portables opened and the teachers looked out, staring into the dense rain, trying to spot the cause of all this commotion. Mr. Ward opened the door of portable 19. He stepped out onto the porch and looked around back. Across the field, the kids from Mrs. Alvarez's portable came walking out with their belongings in single file, like they were supposed to do in a fire drill. Other teachers saw that and started their kids out too. But suddenly there was a larger sound. A louder whoosh turned every head and opened every eye in that rainy field. Then the walkway started to heave up and down, making terrible splintering noises. Immediately, kids started screaming and vaulting over the handrails, landing in ankle-deep mud. Another whoosh and another violent cracking sound followed. Then every 7th and 8th grader started to pour out of those portables, some still calm, some panicking. There was instant and total chaos in the back row, the one nearest the football field, because the portables themselves were starting to break apart and move. The kids came diving out, jamming in the doorways, pushing into the backs of other kids, knocking each other flat on the disintegrating boardwalk. They knocked each other into the moving mudslide that was now swirling in a circle around them. What is it? I yelled to Joey. An earthquake? No, sinkhole, man. It's a sinkhole. It's opening up under the field. Look at 19. I looked and saw the entire portable being swallowed up by the mud, its roof now where its porch steps should be. I yelled, "That's my math class!" Joey shouted back over the din. "They must all be trapped in there." I didn't even think about it. I yelled back, "Come on!" We ditched my umbrella and jumped out of the way as the first panic wave reached the building. We pushed around the bottleneck of screaming kids forming at the door. Stepping carefully, we sloshed and fought our way through the mud to portable 19. We joined some 8th graders in a kind of bucket brigade extending from the field down to the sinkhole. They were grabbing the hands of the kids who were trapped in the portable and pulling them out step by step to the edge of the hole. Some of those guys must have been 10 feet down below ground level at this point, and the sinkhole was still deepening and spreading. The mud continued to swirl around us in a rapid clockwise motion. Empty of kids, portable 16 fell right over, roof first, into the far end of the hole. Portables 20 and 21 were balanced on the rim of the crater, about to go. Joey and I dug our heels into the mud about halfway down towards the bottom of the hole. We pulled and grabbed at kids as they made their way up the slippery incline to the top. Some of them were so frightened they didn't want to let go of us, but we pushed them along anyway, up to the next guys. I lost my balance twice and fell into the mud, but I managed to right myself quickly. My glasses were so caked with mud that I could no longer see anything clearly. I must have pulled 20 kids up before I heard Mr. Ward's voice yell, "That's it, that's everybody, let's get out of here." Those of us in the middle of the line helped the guys from the bottom to climb out. Then they pulled us up. I heard Mr. Ward yell again, "There goes 17 and 18," and I heard the sound of portable 17 and 18 splitting apart. The whooshing was getting louder, and I felt afraid for the first time, afraid that we might get sucked down and drown in the mud. We moved out into a tight group, holding on to each other through the field of moving slop and splintered boards. Finally, we pushed our way inside the building, out of the rain. I tried to clean my glasses on my sopping, filthy shirt. No way. Someone snatched the glasses away from me, right out of my hand. It was a big guy with a towel, and he proceeded to wipe them clean. He said, "Mars, my man, good work out there." I knew that voice. I said, "Thanks, Gino." We placed them carefully on my head and said, "It sucks what they did to you, Mars. I told Coach Walensky that too. You're the best 7th grade four-eyed Martian goalie in the entire county." "Thanks, Gino. I appreciate that." He started to move on with his towel, but he turned to add, "They should have bent the rules for you, Mars. They bend the rules for other guys, lots of them, so they should have bent them for you." I watched Gino head off into the sea of muddy and miserable kids. Sirens started to wail outside. Then the loudspeakers crackled to life. "This is Mrs. Gates. We are experiencing an extreme emergency. Please listen carefully and do exactly as I say. First, any injured student should come immediately to the office. No student who is not injured should attempt to come to the office at this time. All other students should move calmly and quietly to their afternoon bus stops or pickup points. School buses have already been dispatched to drive you home. If you cannot go home at this time, you should proceed out to the front entrance and walk to the high school gymnasium. Mrs. Gates repeated this speech twice more as I worked my way out the front door and turned left to the bus stop. I hooked up with Joey again there. He said he'd heard that there were kids with broken arms and legs all over the office. A convoy of ambulances, police cars, fire engines turned into the entranceway, their sirens wailing and their lights flashing. The rain continued to hammer down, pounding on the long line of kids trudging north around the football stadium towards the high school gymnasium. Our bus pulled into the circular drive and we climbed on board patiently and politely, slopping mud all over the aisle floor and the seats. The bus driver said she had instructions to take all of us right to our doors. I was shivering and my teeth were chattering by the time I got home. I let myself in through the side door to the garage and went into the laundry room. I peeled off my shirt, socks, shoes and pants and dumped them all into the washing machine. Then, wearing only my undershorts and streaked head to foot with mud like one of those lost guys from the Amazon rainforest, I went to break the news to Mum. Okay, that was quite a chapter. Let's have some questions on that one. So, here we go. Let's go from that one and here we go. Oops. Right, Monday, September the 11th, which ended up having a catastrophe like the other September the 11th. Right, page 77. So, number one, what happened at the carnival that means Paul is in trouble? Number two, what do the boys do to get out of trouble? Number three, what happens to cause a panic? And number four, what did Paul and Joey do? Okay, so have a look at those questions. Pause the video here, and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, question one. What happened at the carnival that means Paul is in trouble? Well, somebody went into the World of Wonders exhibition and trashed it, and they thought it was them. But obviously it wasn't, because they just went and had a look. Number two, what do the boys do to get out of trouble? Well, they explain to the headmaster and the coach that it was the other boys from Tangerine Middle School, which felt a bit like they were ratting them out, but it got them out of trouble. Number three, what happens to cause a panic? Well, there becomes a sinkhole on the field and it sucks all the portable classrooms down into it and lots of the kids get trapped. And number four, what did Paul and Joey do? Well, they immediately helped with the rescue, didn't they? Getting the children who were trapped and the teachers who were trapped out, which was really, really brave and something that could have been really dangerous for them, but they still did it. Okay, so that's that chapter. We're going to have another couple of chapters this week, so we need to get to the part 2. So I'll see you in a bit.